Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next installment of our Focus on Parenting series here at the Los Angeles Public Library. Today, we're speaking with Jason Boog, author of Born Reading. He's going to talk to us about some early literacy techniques that we can do as we're safer at home. So take it away, Jason.
Thank you, Katie. It's so good to be here. I feel really fortunate to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And so I'm just going to introduce everyone to my book. I have a little slideshow that I'm going to pull up here to kind of introduce everyone to this. So once again, I'm Jason Boog. I'm a journalist and author. I've been writing, but I'm also a dad. I have a 5-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter, and I've been reading to both of them since day 0. So I just think books are so important for a child's life. And when I became a father, I started researching and finding out more about how to make sure my kids have the same love of books that I do. So I'm just going to go through some of the techniques I learned. And the really crazy thing is I found that these techniques are even more important today. They're even more important as we head into this world where kids are spending a lot more time on screens. And I think it's just really good time to remind parents that you can still have a really enjoyable, interactive, and learning experience with your child, no matter where that experience is happening, whether it's a digital book, even a movie, or a book that you're reading together. So this is Born Reading, bringing up bookworms in a digital age. So I started writing this book because I discovered that for 25 years, studies have shown that interactive reading, which is active engagement with a child during the reading experience, can raise a child's IQ by more than 6 points. Our children are born, their brains are just hungry for this interaction, for a voice, someone to talk to them, to guide them through an experience, to talk about it. And if you have an interactive experience with a child during reading, you're really changing their brain. You're carving new neural pathways and really setting them up for the future. And I just wish someone had handed me a pamphlet when I was in the hospital and said, hey, you should use these simple techniques to read to your child for the rest of your life because it's really going to help them. No one gave me that. So I wrote this book, just kind of rounding up some of this research that has been conducted over the last 25 years. So basically, the only thing I'm here to talk about today, and the only thing you need to know from my book, is interactive reading. And I'm just going to teach you the art of interactive reading. It's a really simple way to change the way you have a literary experience or a story experience with a child. So the most important aspect of interactive reading is that you read together. Researchers call this co-play, or sharing a book, an app, an ebook, an audiobook, or any other literary experience, having it together. So I know it's hard now, and I do this with my kids too. They're spending a lot more time alone with their devices, and that's fine. We need that right now, and I'm not saying that that's bad, but it's really important to make sure that it's part of their media diet, that they're having experiences with you, that you're talking together, you're reading together, you're watching a show together, because that experience with your child, that doing it together, is so important for their brain and their development. And it contributes to that 6-point IQ boost that those researchers discovered. This is a picture of me with my daughter. She was probably 4 years old at this point. Now she's 10. It's really hard to believe how fast time goes. The next piece of this is that, and this is probably the heart and soul of interactive reading, is ask lots and lots of questions. So when you are reading a book together, when you are watching a show together, when you are playing a game together, be sure to ask questions before, during, and after the reading experience. And you can do this even before your reader can speak. I mean, when both my kids were just babies and were just sitting there, we would bring board books. We'd read the board books to them and say, hey, do you see anything that's red? And even if they couldn't point, I could point to something that was red and say, there's something that's red. And they got into the rhythm of asking questions and thinking about questions. And it's amazing when they finally can speak, how quickly they start answering questions and how quickly they start participating in a reading experience if you lay that down. So I just always tell parents, like, even when you have just a baby who can't even really move or talk, you can read them books. You are giving them some information, and their brains are hungry for that interactivity, for that conversation. So even before they can speak, you can start asking lots and lots of questions. That said, the older readers as well. And my 10-year-old, I just last night was watching a documentary with her about Rubik's Cubes, kids who solve Rubik's Cubes. And she loved the documentary. And as we were watching, I asked her lots of questions about why she loved it and what was important about her and what she thought about the characters that were in it. And even though we weren't reading a book together, we don't read books together very much anymore. It's kind of sad, but we were watching the show and having an interactive experience, and that sort of very easy back and forth of asking lots and lots of questions, we still have that, and it's still really important. And so I would remind you, when you're reading a book with a child, or if you're watching a show with a child, or if you're doing an app with a child, or playing Minecraft with a child, ask them questions and let them turn it into an interactive experience. It's really important. And that's kind of the fundamental of interactive reading. Another thing you can do when reading a book or watching a show too is to help children identify with characters in the book. You can discuss simple emotions experienced by different characters in the book. With my 5-year-old, it's so easy to have these conversations because he wears his emotions on his sleeve. And so when a child feels really angry and frustrated in a book, I can say, hey, have you ever felt like that? And he'll give you plenty of examples of how he felt that way. And it's a very vivid feeling for him. And like in the case of this book, Moo by David La Rochelle, one of my favorite books, you see a cow who steals a car, goes on a joyride, and experiences a whole range of emotions. And even before my son could really speak well enough to articulate his feelings, he would be able to tell if that cow was happy or if that cow was scared because they just crashed the car, things like that. And so we've been having conversations about his emotions and how he identifies with characters since he was very, very young. And it's a really important piece of interactive reading, but it also helps children so much begin to express their own emotions and realize that what they're feeling is something, and they can see how other characters in books, in television, and things like that deal with it. To go back to the Rubik's Cube example last night when we were watching the Netflix movie, you see the characters go through some extreme hardships and sadness. And my son was actually watching that as well. And it was the emotions that those kids were feeling when they lost at a Rubik's Cube competition were very intense for him. And we had to talk about it a lot. And I was glad that I was there and I was able to talk it through with him rather than him just sitting and having that experience alone on his device. So just always, no matter what kind of experience they're having, ask them questions about it and see how they identify with those characters. It's really important and key for emotional development and the intellectual development we've been talking about. Another thing you can do that really helps that process is to compare the story to personal experiences. So you can connect events and actions in the books to the things the children have experienced in real life. For example, Pete the Cat, I Love My White Shoes. If you haven't read that book, I recommend sharing it with your kids. It's a story about a cat who has a lot of frustrating things happen. He has these beautiful white shoes and some things happen to it. They get wrecked and ruined and colored. And he goes through a lot of emotions as that happens. And every kid has an experience of something that they love getting ruined in some way. And you can have a great conversation about it. And the moral of this book at the end is that even though this stuff happens to you, you can keep moving, you can keep going forward. And so these conversations, comparing these story to personal experiences, it's going to help build resilience for your children. It's going to help build this feeling of problem solving, of being able to narrate your life and overcome obstacles the same way that characters and stories do. And I can't think of a more beautiful gift to give to your children right now during this time that we're living in than that, because it's going to be a hard few years, and our children are going to have to cope with a lot. And any skills you can give them about how to cope, how to connect events and actions in books and think about their own lives, you're giving them a powerful set of coping tools. So I think you should do this, and you can do this with very young readers. You just have to make sure to talk about things that have really happened to them, and kids love to talk about it. And it takes a little bit of practice, but once you get in the habit of it, kids become very comfortable with this experience, and it's very easy to start that dialogue. Like I was saying with my daughter when we're watching a movie, we can very easily enter into that dialogue now. And it's just really important. It's a great gift that you can give right now. And then the other piece of it's to encourage children to recount the story. So once you're done reading the book, ask some questions that help the kid retell what happened to key characters. This helps with a lot of things. I mean, number one, it helps them process what they just read. It helps them think about the narrative. It helps them deal with the story a little bit, but it also gives them a set of skills that they're going to need over and over in their school lives. They're going to have teachers at every level of their lives is going to be asking them, what just happened in that story? And if you start like from 0 to 5 when you're reading with your kids at home and you're asking them questions and encouraging them to recount the story and tell you what happened to key characters, when you're doing that, you're teaching them this set of tools that they're going to use over and over from kindergarten all the way up to high school. That's what school is for the literary part of it, and for like social studies, other subjects too. It's all about receiving the information, reading it, processing it, and then telling someone what happened in there. So it's never too early to start that skill with your children, and books or apps or movies, whatever it is. If you have that interactive experience with them and you're asking them questions about it, you are giving them a powerful set of tools that they can use in their school lives. Help children express personal opinions about a book. If they love the book or if they hate it, let them tell you why. It's so important to let kids have a voice and be able to articulate why they feel something. It will really help in school. You can't, as soon as you're in school, you can't say, I don't like this or I love this. You have to give specific reasons why. And so you're helping them do that, but then also you're helping them process that experience and think about the book, the app, the game, the movie, whatever it was that they just had. It helps them think about it in a critical way and process it a little bit more. And it's also a really easy way to start a conversation if you feel stuck. I mean, it was that easy to be like, why? I asked my daughter, I was like, why did you watch this movie twice? Why do you like it so much? And that was all we needed. We were off to the races once we started talking about that. So I do think it's important to remember that interactive reading is not something that you have to, you don't have to practice this all the time. You don't have to schedule time like a scientist and sit down and be really focused and just be really practiced at it. It's just something that you have to make part of your everyday life. Just to build these questions, to build these activities into whatever it is you're doing. And you don't have to be methodical about it. You don't have to be religious about it, but you can just apply this when you can. So at the dinner table, for instance, when you're not even reading, you can have kids to talk about how book characters handle a particular life situation. This book, D.W. the Picky Eater, we got that at the LA Public Library many, many years ago for my daughter, and we still refer to this book at the dinner table. It's a great reference for us. And we still talk about it. So even when you're not reading, you can bring it back to whatever it is that happened in that book or movie. And then this, I think, is my favorite piece, and especially important now. Help children follow their interest. If your child loves Disney's Frozen, help them find more books, more music, more audiobooks, more images, and other related materials about Frozen. so that's when I first wrote my book a few years ago. Frozen was huge, and my daughter loved Frozen, and we found journals that she could write in, we found books that she could read, we found songs that she could sing along, we found an app where she could sing the songs and put herself in it, we found toys where she could play with them, and we just turned. We followed her interests and we found books about those interests. My son, more recently, has been really into Pokemon. And so we went to the LA Public Library. We found an amazing Pokemon handbook that has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of listings for the different Pokemon that he can capture. And we also found some of the manga from Japan, which are amazing. And it's a whole new comic book reading form that he had never experienced. So I knew that he liked Pokemon Go, the video game, and he always wanted me to pull out of my pocket when we were walking around. He wanted to play it. And rather than saying, no, let's stop, let's put video games away, video games are bad, I said, let's find as much as we can about this. So we found books about how to draw Pokemon, how to read about Pokemon, we just turned it into it, and we helped him follow his interests. And that is an amazing gift that you give to a child, because once they do that, they will have this lifelong knowledge that when they love something, they can go to the library, or they can look on the digital catalog, or they can go to the internet and they can find more things, and they can build on that interest and learn more and grow. So always help your children follow their interest in everyday life. So that was the interactive reading piece of this. I'm going to put this down. I'm back. I was just going to check and see if there's any questions here. I wanted to see, is there anyone, any questions here? I don't see any real big questions yet, but I did want to share. So I think it's important for parents to realize right now that that when we are in this, if you're here in Los Angeles, you're in this quarantine lifestyle. Our kids are doing school remotely. They spend most of their day online in school. They're spending so much time on devices right now. It's a huge lifestyle change, and it's hard. It's hard to know that our kids are spending this much time on devices. But I think it's more important than ever to remember interactive reading, to remember that we can turn whatever these experiences are into something more interactive, that you can go play Minecraft with your child and talk about it. You can watch the Netflix show along with your child and ask questions, or help them start solving Rubik's Cubes on their own if they love the Rubik's Cube documentary, and follow their interests. So these techniques work for whatever media your child is consuming, and it's important in this time when our children are consuming a lot more digital media to make sure we're still applying these when we can. I would never say that you have to do this all the time. Our children, just the way their lives work now, they're going to spend a lot more time with devices alone. But when you can, try to use these interactive reading techniques and try to use them and make that experience more interactive. To that point, I wanted to share my screen one more time. And we can't. One of the saddest things about our lives right now for me and my family is that we love the Los Angeles Public Library, and we would go once a week to our local branch. And so since we can't visit right now, we've spent a lot of time on Overdrive. This is something that you can explore for your own. You just go to LA Public Library overdrive.com and you just sign up for an account. And this is where, through your Los Angeles Public Library card, you can start downloading digital books. And I have found hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds, I found many, many books to read to my kids through this amazing collection. There's a kids section right here that you can just click on, and it's just loaded with books. And you can see a few of the ones we're reading now. My son's looking at Iron Man, and then My Rainy Day Rocket's a book I want to look at in a minute. But you just click on the kids tab here, and it's an amazing resource, and you don't need a reader or anything. You can do it right on your laptop or on your iPad. It's very simple, and as you can see, it's just a whole series of books that you can click on for kids and explore them. It's just as easy as clicking, and you click borrow, and then you have that book and you get it for the next, I think, 2 weeks. And it's really great. There's a lot of different subjects you can explore. You can filter by age. It's just a tremendous resource. And even though you can't visit your library, even though you can't restock your library maybe right now, you can go here and get lots of free resources. And it's super, super useful. So to that point, I just wanted to show, I always like to demonstrate how these interactive reading techniques work in my workshop. So I wanted to pull up, this is a book that we have downloaded from, that I have on my account here from the Los Angeles Public Library. So I just wanted to show you. So all I did is I clicked that I wanted to borrow it. And then I click right here where it says read now in browser. And here it is. And here's the book. And so this is a really wonderful book, a really good one to read right now. It's coming to us courtesy of Simon & Schuster. It's by the great journalist Marquette Shepard. She's wonderful, and the illustrations are really good. This book is a really good example of how I just wanted to show how to use some interactive reading techniques. And I just want to say thank you to Simon & Schuster for letting us use this for this workshop. So I'm just going to read this story, and I'm just going to, as I'm reading, I'm going to show how organically you can introduce these interactive reading techniques. So I'm going to read as if my son, and my son has read this book many times, I'm going to read as if my son is here right now with me reading this book. It's called My Rainy Day Rocket Ship. So Mom says it's too rainy to play outside today, so I'll have to find my fun another way. So you see this kid looking outside, and so this is the moment when, after we've read this book, and I turn to my son and I'm like, this reminds me of what we're feeling right now. Like we can't go to school, see your friends. We can't go to the park. We can't play in the playground. Do you feel like that kid? Like, and I'd say, what did we do? Do you remember? What have we done when we feel like that? And invariably he'll say, we made cardboard creations. That was one of the things we did.
Oh, sorry, Jason, we can't see the book.
Oh, sorry. Oops. Let me share this here. All right, let's start over here. So I want everyone to see the cover. Is that good? So this is called My Rainy Day Rocket Ship. And here's the cover right there. And here we go. So Mom says it's too rainy to play outside today, so I'll have to find my fun another way. And so I would say to my son, this reminds me of how we used to make things out of cardboard early in quarantine. That was one of the favorite things we did. And then the kid goes, I could get in some laughs with my inside toys, cars, and games that bring much joy. Whenever there's a big pile of items like this, you'll notice this more. Like once you get in the habit of asking questions, you'll notice things. Like many books have piles of toys like this. And whenever you see a pile of toys like this, great question to ask is, do you see any of your toys in here? Or have you played with any of these toys in here before? And my son would be happy to tell you that he has a dump truck very much like that one, and that we have a soccer ball, but we do not have a football like that. And he does not have a dog stuffed animal, but he has a few bears. So there we are. I've been there. I've done that stuff. Today, I'm going to make something really tough. So this kid has basically run out of things to do. It's rainy. He's played with all his toys. It's a feeling, I think, that a lot of kids feel right now. Like we've been cooped up for so long. And so I would ask my son, do you feel sometimes like you've played with everything in the house? Do you feel like you need something really special right now? And sometimes he'll tell me how he feels, because it is a very valid feeling that a lot of kids are feeling right now. Like a whole new world in a different place, a galaxy off in outer space. And so there, I think this is a great moment to talk about, like my son loves talking about spaceships and things like that. So we could talk about how, hey, do you remember we were watching that video about the liftoff of the space shuttle? Wasn't that awesome? Do you ever think about that? Is there a way that we could play like that together? What can we do? Or what do you think this kid's going to do? There's a lot of questions you can ask at this point. And sometimes the kids will answer, sometimes they won't, and that's fine. But it's good to ask and just have a question when you see something like this. I need a rocket to get me there. And then here, what I like to do is I'll pause. I won't read that next spot, and I'll say, he needs a rocket to get there. Do you see anything around this room that he could use to pretend when he's flying? And then maybe the kid will point out the rocking chair, and then he goes, how about this rocking chair? And then you're like, oh, you were right. That's awesome. Good job. And then he goes, I'll need a super launching pad. This will require some tools from dad. This moment always spawns a good conversation between my son and I, because I don't have many tools. I live in an apartment in Los Angeles. I have enough tools to like hang photos and a drill, some very simple tools, but I don't have the setup that this dad has. But my father does. He has a huge workshop, and my son remembers that when we visited my dad in Michigan and all the tools my son has. So we talked about, hey, do you remember what it was like in Grandpa's workshop? Do you remember some of the tools? What was your favorite part? And then sometimes we'll even call Grandpa and say hi. But just this evocative scene between a dad and his son in a room full of tools. There's lots of questions you can ask, and think about it. So then he goes, all I need is a cardboard box and a bunch of socks. So he puts all that there. And then the most easy question here is what do you think he's going to do with those socks? I mean, he's just putting socks in a box. What's he going to do? How's he going to make a spaceship with that? And let the kid give their ideas. Let's see what they say. And then you get to see, he goes, well, these will surely serve me well on this mission. I cannot fail. And you see he put swimming trunks on. He put some socks on his arms. It's a great moment to be, kids think it's hilarious. You can actually go grab some socks if you want, maybe grab some swimming trunks, pull them on, let the kid act this out a little bit, because it's fun and it makes you laugh, and kids like this kind of thing. So you can actually start acting out the book in real life if you feel like it, if you have the time when reading. Now let me see about a spaceship. These swimming goggles and these swimming trunks and goggles should do. And if your kid is already getting dressed up, they might want to run around, look for some swimming goggles. I mean, you can build your own spacesuit while doing this, and kind of get in on the action, or you can just ask questions about it. It's not a big deal. And say, what do you think those goggles are? What's he imagining? Try to get in that kid's head. Try to get into what this kid's feeling. Of course, astronauts need a flag. Maybe I can use mom's old dish rag. And there he makes a flag for his astronaut to plant on the moon, and a very easy thing to do at home as well. You could turn this into a whole experience if you so desire. And then there's his spaceship, the cardboard spaceship. Now, if I can just get mom to turn off the light, this astronaut's crew is ready for flight. And you can ask what you think he's sitting on there, what's going to happen, what do you think is going to happen. And then my son loves to do this countdown out loud. We just yell it out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dad does the countdown from behind the couch. Mom makes sure I don't feel an ouch. And then they propel him out of the rocking chair and into the couch. It's a good moment to say, what do you think is going to happen next? What do you think is going to happen to this kid in his box? What's going to happen? And they get to see zoom, zoom, zoom all the way from the living room, down the hall, riding on a broom. So you just get to see this kid playing astronaut, running all around the house. My son has picked up different objects around the house and ran around just like this kid. So it's a good moment to talk about. He can act it out if he wants, or we can just say, hey, remember that time you were running around on the broom? And then it ends. Prepare for landing on planet XYZ. It's a safe arrival in my BED, also known as the land of Z's. And my son's learning how to read right now, so a page like this, I can actually say, what letters do you see that you know? He can't read yet, but he can recognize a few letters, and Z's and BED, and it's a fun discussion. And that's the end of the book. So that is my presentation, more or less. I just wanted to show a real book and how you can apply all of these there. I see that Katie has put the Overdrive link right there, so everyone should check that out. Yeah, just ask questions when you're reading books and having experiences with your kids. That's the most important thing I can say.
I have a very quick question, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite question that you like to ask?
Favorite question? Yeah, I think my favorite question is, and it's just because I like getting in my kid's head, is have you ever felt like that person? I just feel like I find myself doing that, especially when things get hard during quarantine. And I read a lot. It's kind of my escape. And I think when I ask myself that question, like if it's some person in a science fiction story running around and living a life somewhere else, like I'm relating to that escape. And so I'm asking that of myself. And I love asking kids because it's a really good way of taking the temperature of what they're feeling at the moment. And I think sometimes they can't express what they're feeling, but that character in the story can. And it's just a really good way to have the conversation. I think that's
it's a great empathy learning tool too, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's empathy is such a powerful thing, and we're going to need it more than ever now for the next few years. So good luck, everyone.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you all for watching. Next week, join us again on Wednesday at 4 for the authors of How to Raise a Reader. So they focus on if you have a kid that maybe is a reluctant reader, you could definitely use a lot of the awesome tips that Jason shared with us today, but they'll focus more on like how to get them to read in the first place. So also join us next week, all throughout the week for our Halloween of children's programs, all with Halloween themes. So you can find out more on our website, on our events calendar. So thank you once again, Jason. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.